Hi, I'm Trevor.
And I'm Kyle, and thanks for joining us on Catching Up on Cinema. If you're new to the podcast, what Trevor and I do is we have each other watch a movie that the other one hasn't seen. And in this month, we are actually covering Keanu Reeves. That is our person this month. Last week, we covered Freaked from 1993-ish.
Yeah.
Directed by co-written and co-directed by Alex Winter. But this week, I chose a movie that, in theory, neither one of us have seen, but Trevor has kind of seen it, but he forgot, which we count here. If you can't remember it, it's like it didn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. And I did see this around the time it first came out. I think my parents rented it or something in, 1997, and I saw it. I don't really remember it. And so, yeah, this was basically my first viewing of this. But, Kyle, why did you select this for your pick for Catching Up on Keanu month as your selection of a film that you hadn't seen from his filmography?
Well, I think we both agreed that My Own Private Idaho was going to be a little bit difficult to do on this program. It's a Criterion release, so just watch it. But again, the point of the podcast also is we're kind of highlighting films that we both like, and we try to make each other watch movies that we don't normally watch. And this is one that I'd never heard of. I saw the cover of it, and I just kind of skimmed it. I looked at the year, who was in it. I'm like, Morgan Freeman, Rachel Weisz. I'm like, okay, 1996, let's do it. I'm just going to just shoot from the hip. The other one I was going to go with was Feeling Minnesota, I think was what it was, which I remember my parents rented at one time, and I don't think I watched, but I'm like, it doesn't sound... I read the back of the box, basically, and it wasn't really hitting the notes I wanted, but yeah, this looked like it was going to be a lot of fun. And what did you think of Chain Reaction, this go?
Well, I mean, what little I did remember of the movie going in, I do remember some of the marketing for it, and what's funny about the marketing and the film itself, if you ask me, is that the whole plot can basically be summarized as 2 explosions and some stuff that happens in the middle.
Yep.
Because this is a... So let's go back in time to 1996 history lesson. 1996, so we're right in the middle of the 90s. So you should
probably say at the top here who directed this, but
by the way, this
help.
film was directed by Andrew Davis, who is a very prolific action film director. He has worked with some of the biggest name stars in the genre. I believe you told me right before we went on the air that he did The Fugitive.
Yes,
which is fitting, being as this movie bears quite a strong resemblance to that. And he also directed Above the Law. Basically, he introduced the world to Steven Seagal.
Yes, we needed him.
Yes, it's a
No,
pivotal moment in history.
Him.
They should restructure the time where there's a before Seagal era.
Yep, ASBS, yes.
Yeah, but what I want to say about 1996. So in the very short history of action cinema, traditional action films as we know them today are a very new product. They haven't really existed until, the 80s? And in the 80s, you had your Stallones and your Schwarzeneggers. Actually, flip that. Schwarzenegger...
You had your Schwarzenegger first.
Yeah,
yes.
Schwarzenegger is a tier above everyone else. There's Schwarzenegger, and then there's everyone else. I love everyone else.
He stands alone as the greatest. He's the GOAT.
But yeah, when you think of a traditional action film, I like to think of Commando as being like the archetypal action film from that time period. It's not the best Arnold film by any stretch of the imagination, but the body count and the tongue-in-cheek element of it fits the mold better than anything else I can think of. But then you get towards the late 80s and you get Die Hard. And you start to see the traditional action hero archetype start to get phased out a bit in favor of the Michael Keatons and the Bruce Willises. Not schlubby guys, but just believable as somewhat everyman guys.
Dad bods.
Yeah, and then when we get past the 80s altogether, though, we start to get into the 90s, and in my mind, the 90s was the era of high-concept action thrillers. What I mean by that is instead of emphasizing like violence and brutality and just over the top craziness, we start to trend more towards, instead of a body count, instead of like violence, we're trending towards spectacle. So it's like people doing insane stunts, like falling off of tall objects and gigantic gasoline explosions. The 90s to me are typified as being like the decade of gigantic explosions. Like even more so than the 80s. Like I don't know how many giant fireballs my eyes were subjected to in that decade, but it feels like a lot. So this was like right in the thick of it, where instead of shooting people all throughout our movie, we're catering more towards scripts where people are running away from things and jumping off of things.
Yeah.
So it's action. This is an action thriller. It's not a traditional action film. And if you can deal with that, then you might find some enjoyment here. But I think the biggest problem with this film is that it's too similar to other things that were happening at the time, and it feels derivative. One other note that I wanted to throw out there about this time period in action cinema was that Jurassic Park was, 93?
Correct.
Yeah, Michael Crichton was a thing in cinema. Rising Sun, I don't know if that did very well, but this was also the era of the techno thriller, where it's like technology does stuff, and we can find a way to insert this into the script. And also Star Trek The Next Generation was kind of a thing, too.
I'm going to say, it wasn't techno script, it was vague technology.
Yeah, mumbo jumbo, but with science, like pseudoscience backing it.
Yeah.
We're talking, I don't think the term fusion is ever used in this movie, but that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, there's a hydrogen bomb in the beginning, and then at the end there's still a hydrogen bomb, and nobody's saying like the hydrogen thing is gonna explode. I'm like, you mean the hydrogen bomb you have downstairs? Because that's what that is.
Like there's very little. Everything's very vague, and it seems very intentional. Where it's like we're not gonna actually label anything and bring any actual science into our discussions. We're just going to say clean energy involving hydrogen. I feel like somebody in the audience is throwing some shit.
Is all sizzle no steak? Is that the term is that the phrase I want to use for this? Where the way it's shot and edited is trying to be like The Fugitive, where it's like cat and mouse, except there's no cat and mouse. Like it has all
there's no cat.
Yeah, it just like, they're going for something and it's just not there. I'm like, The Fugitive. I honestly, after I'm finished with this, I think I have to watch Game of Thrones, but The Fugitive is going to be watched sometime this week. Now that I've watched this movie,
I think The Fugitive is a very fun action thriller.
I watched it.
I've seen it more than once, and I really enjoy it. And U.S. Marshals is pretty good too. It's not as good, but it's pretty good.
I tried watching. I got about halfway through U.S. Marshals, and I'm like, oh, okay, this just is not capturing the same magic, and this isn't capturing the same magic as The Fugitive, which I think it was trying to. Well,
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely. I think I said before we went on the air, this movie would not exist if not for the success of The Fugitive, because that was a wildly successful film.
I stayed engaged for the most part in this movie. I had a lot of problems with how the fuck did they get there? How the fuck did he get there? Where did they come from? How did they get there? I think
you're not wrong on that. I was paying attention to the way this film was edited, and there's some evidence to suggest that a lot of stuff was just torn out of it. Like it feels like there's chunks missing. And the first 15 minutes of the film feel super rushed.
Yeah.
Like it's like, whoa, we're moving real fast here. And
I kind of appreciated that.
I did too, because that is like the biggest compliment I can pay to this film, actually, is that it moves. It doesn't really have any lulls in the action, and it needs to be said, Jerry Goldsmith did the score for this film.
I was about to ask you about that.
He worked his ass off. I wouldn't think of this as one of his best scores, but the sheer amount of music that he composed for this, man, they leaned really heavy on him, because the action in this film is not amazing by any stretch.
No.
But the energy level both through a combination of the editing and the impact of his score, does a lot to carry the film in a lot of ways. So I'm just picturing poor Jerry Goldsmith getting woken up at like 4 a.m, like every day for 3 months or something. The director's like, Jerry, you gotta bail me out. Like, I'm in the editing room. It's not coming together.
It's not going well, Jerry.
It's not going well, Jerry. I need you in the booth right now.
We got we could kind of jump into the plot here a little bit, but I wanted to mention at the top the cast real quick. So we got Keanu Reeves, looking like your brother straight up.
Yeah,
oh my
absolutely.
Gosh.
There was a couple of times where he was like turning his head when he was talking. I was like, whoa, that's
okay.
my brother.
He's rocking. So Keanu's rocking his Bill and Ted haircut still. No, it's been cut at this point. He grew it back out because he definitely did not have this haircut in Point Break. But he, so yes, Keanu is in here. Morgan Freeman, playing. Has he ever committed to just playing a bad guy, just from the beginning to end, not smiling at Christian Slater as he's rowing away with the money he stole from the bank in hard rain? Can he just be a villain?
That was actually one of the things I did remember about this movie, and I remember being upset about when I was a kid, because I didn't understand everything that was happening in the movie, but I do remember being upset that, like, hang on, I thought he was supposed to be bad, but like the way he's presented on camera, like, you can't be mad at him. Like, he's Morgan Freeman. Like, I've been saying it for a while. One of his best moments in a horrible film is Wanted, where he finally like drops the facade, because Morgan Freeman past a certain age, you know what you're getting.
Yeah,
he's gonna be classy. He's gonna be erudite. He's gonna be cool. He has a moment in Wanted where he drops the facade and he just says, "This motherfucker." He's like, "Kill this motherfucker." And I was like, "Yes, I need more of this." But I don't remember what movie it was. But my mom always cites this one example from like a movie really early in his career where he played a pimp.
Oh my goodness!
Apparently he was terrifying.
He
was scary.
I feel stupid that I don't remember the name of the movie from the 80s where he plays an inner city principal. It's not Stand By Me. It's I'm looking for it right now because I can't not remember what it is. Like, I have to know remember what it is. But yeah, is it that might be the? I'm curious as to where he played a pimp, because that is not what I would think of when I think of Morgan Freeman.
No, but I mean, everybody got to start somewhere. I mean, look at Lawrence Fishburne and Cowboy Curtis.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you see? We'll get to it. Did you see who the guy dropping off the flowers was in this movie?
I did, and
we'll get there.
I just about shat my pants.
I could not.
How did this happen again? Like,
I could not believe
the second time he's appeared in a film unexpectedly.
Yeah, I was not expecting that at all.
Neither was I. But I was like, holy shit, this is perfect for you.
Yeah, I was super excited about that. Okay, this is really making me mad. I can't find the movie right now. Lean on Me. Good Lord. Found it. Fantastic. It's probably...
What year?
1989.
Okay.
It's a fantastic movie. It's one of my favorite Morgan Freeman performances, although I couldn't remember the name of the movie.
It was that good.
It was that good. Rachel Weisz... Go ahead, sorry. I was going to mention the rest of it. The top billed cast here. Before we get to the FBI agents, Rachel Weisz is playing a physicist, and then we have a dude I want to call Fake Oliver Reed. He's the guy that we're introduced to very first, the old gentleman.
Yeah. He's another Dr. Wiley look like.
Well, his voice. It was just his voice. I'm like, that sounds kind of like Oliver Reed a little bit. And he has a very distinguished voice. You know right away if it's Oliver Reed. I'm like, it's not Oliver Reed, but it's close.
We couldn't afford him this time.
I think he was dead. No, he wasn't dead yet. He still had to do Gladiator. Sorry.
Yeah. Which, what?
2000.
Yeah,
so,
that's right.
Do you want to jump into the plot here? We want to jump into the story?
Yeah. So, the plot of this film, Chain Reaction, is Keanu is a machinist or a fabricator of some sort that is working with this fake Oliver Reed fella to create a clean energy device of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
So the film actually opens, and we'll get to the film in just a second, but the film actually opens with a speech from fake Oliver Reed.
Yes.
About how the world is addicted to petroleum products and we need to find a clean energy solution soon, otherwise it's going to be the end of the world. This was 1996. Absolutely nothing has changed. Anyway, Keanu is part of the crew that they've put together to work here. Morgan Freeman finances the project. And then through happenstance or shenanigans or whatever you want to call it, Keanu comes across a breakthrough. The machine works. There's some sort of sabotage that happens after. Gigantic explosion. And then Keanu and Rachel Weisz have to go on the run because they are framed for the explosion. Merry mishaps ensue. Mm-hmm. So that is our plot summary. But film opens with pretty cool titles for its day. Cool font. It has that impact to it. You got, like, as soon as the first couple notes play on the score, if you know anything about like film scores, you're gonna know it's Jerry Goldsmith in the room. You're like, okay, we got some money. And then we cut to the speech from Alistair, is the name of the British doctor, the fake Oliver Reed guy.
Yeah, fake Oliver Reed.
And we're cutting back and forth between him doing like a conference of some sort, basically laying out the entire reason why we're working on this clean energy machine. So he's doing his pollution revolution speech. So we cut back and forth between him giving the speech and Keanu working in like his, I think it's his home. Like he has a machine shop in his home.
Yeah, his loft.
He has a friend's apartment, basically, where it's like it doesn't make sense that he can afford this, but whatever. It moves the plot along. So apparently we're working with like fusion energy. We're trying to convert hydrogen to an energy source. We're trying to get a lot from a little, basically. And then Keanu hops on his motorcycle. I forget what type of motorcycle it is, but it's Keanu, so of course he has to have a cool car or motorcycle or something.
Or a time machine.
And then he drives out to the factory from RoboCop.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Thank you.
And so we meet the crew here, Kyle, and there's a handful of familiar faces here.
Yes, familiar faces. We mentioned Rachel Weisz, who just adorable Rachel Weisz. This is before The Mummy too.
This is baby Rachel Weisz.
Baby Rachel Weisz. As we've said on a couple of, I've mentioned probably on a couple episodes. Big Rachel Weisz fan. Who else was in the Morgan Freeman, of course. Fake Oliver Reed. Was there another doctor or person that was missing
he's
here?
somewhat important to the plot. He doesn't have much screen time, but Dr. Chen Lu.
Oh yes, I'm sorry.
He is played by I'm sorry, I don't know Chinese pronunciation, but Sima. You will recognize him as the
Juntao. No, I'm sorry.
From that movie, but he's the guy who. Yeah, he's the father of the little girl in
what little
Rush
girl?
Hour.
What little Chinese girl?
Shit. But yeah, he's the guy from Rush Hour. He's not the prime minister. He's some other minister of some sort. Anyway, he's one of the doctors here. I've seen him play scientists in many American films. It's apparently a thing he does.
Does he say a word in this movie? Maybe
a couple.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, a few. He's just there to be a victim mostly.
He's there to get racistly killed by Brian Cox. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, that came out of nowhere.
I watched it. I'm like, that was racist. Why would he start with him? You shoot Rachel. I'm sorry, we're getting ahead of ourselves. I'm sorry. We'll get there.
It was kind of a shocking moment because this movie doesn't actually have much violence in it.
Even Morgan Freeman calls him out on it. Like, what? That wasn't necessary.
Yeah, he raises his voice, and it takes a lot to get him, above that threshold.
Riled up.
So, in the tradition of any old science-related movie, if you've seen any movie of this type, you're familiar with the scenes that are going to be playing out here in the next few minutes. Like Hollow Man, for instance. It's a later film, but similar rhythm to it, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, this movie starts much like The Fugitive, where we're getting important plot points straight up. And I appreciate that in The Fugitive. Like in the beginning, he's at a dinner. We get it really quick. I mean, wife dies within 4 minutes. I'd say 4 minutes flat of that movie, The Fugitive. Here we get our pretty much everything right at the top. Like, we know what's happening. We don't have to be explained anything once the movie actually starts.
Actually, it's kind of similar to Deep Blue Sea in that way.
A little bit.
But without the added shenanigans of having Saffron Burrows be a little insane.
Yeah.
The thing about that movie is that, like, the reason why things got out of hand, or part of the reason, was that they were under financial pressure to push things out of hand, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this one, thankfully, it's like the whole reason these scenes exist is to show that these people like each other. They're hard workers, and they believe in what they're doing. So we get the band together. This all takes place in, like, no joke, like 5 minutes. This is real quick. And then we test our machine, which, if you've ever seen the 1954 Godzilla movie, which I don't know that you have.
I haven't, no.
There is a device in there called the Oxygen Destroyer. Super cool. Anyway, this machine that they have, this, like, hydrogen converter or fusion device or whatever you want to call it.
It's got bubbles, yeah.
It's got bubbles and lasers.
Yeah, bubbles and lasers.
Yeah, bubbles and lasers in a water tank. It looks like a giant oxygen destroyer, and it's got blue lights.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we got lasers in a water tank. The machine starts getting jostled. There's some loud noises. Everybody has their goggles on. And they're behind, like, a blast shield of some sort, like with control panels. And I noticed a really ugly shot here that it's just a shot of Keanu looking bored while wearing goggles, and then the camera, like, punches in with intensity. Where it's like, Keanu, are you gonna react? Or
No.
It's like, no.
He's kind of on autopilot in this movie. He's not.
Unfortunately, yeah.
It's not a great performance on his behalf, but
Yeah.
what are you gonna do? So yeah, they're at the University of Chicago. They tell us that several times by showing, not telling. Keanu's wearing the University of Chicago. Okay, so they try getting this thing to work, and it doesn't work the first try. So Keanu goes back to his loft machine shop, which, by the way, there's no way he's getting that machine up into a loft. It's not happening.
Yeah, it's a fucking lathe.
Yeah. It's not happening. So he's just got something spinning, and he's messing and fidgeting with shit, and then he's like, wait, what's that? And he gets a microphone, and he figures it out. This scene made no sense. I'm just like, he just microphoned the problem away.
This is maybe the lamest eureka moment I've seen in a science-related film.
It is.
Yeah, it is. I'm sorry. This is the lamest eureka moment in cinema history, because I had no fucking clue what was happening, and what happened occurred within, like, 20 seconds.
Real complicated science stuff.
By
Trevor,
the way, Keanu, Spider-Man 2. You know what Dr. Octopus was trying to do?
Yeah.
Make the power of the sun in the palm of my hand.
Mm-hmm.
You know how that, like, entire movie was about him trying to get it right, and even by the end of it, he didn't get it right. That's what Keanu did here on accident in 20 seconds.
20 seconds.
With a flickering light bulb, a lathe, and a synthesizer. I have no idea how any of these things are related, but the word frequencies is thrown out there several times. And I guess light, sound, metal drill, synthesizer, all these things work in tandem to create clean energy.
He doesn't even have a cup of coffee to let us know that he's been working on it for a while. He came home, hasn't even taken his shoes off or popped in a microwave dinner. He's figured it out.
I think it was the same night after the test.
It was.
And not only that, I don't think he was actually trying to do anything.
He wasn't.
I think he was just fabricating some parts. He's a machinist.
He was about to put in a kung fu movie, and just he was about to just, kick back with some noodles.
No, he was whittling, but with metal. And then he's like, "Oh, I solved fusion."
He was metal whittling. Yes, he was metal
whittling. And
exactly
somehow he found clean energy.
I will say before we get to the next scene that I appreciate 90s trailers, because I watched the trailer for this and that really got me excited. I miss 90s trailers. I don't think there's a decade that's captured them. Now trailers are too good. Before they would just give enough. And I was worried watching the trailer. I'm like, they're going to give too much away in the trailer, because that's definitely happened in this decade. They didn't. And actually, most of the stuff in the trailer is in the first 5 minutes, and then, like, a couple of little middle bits here and there. But really good job on the trailer. But yeah, so the next day he gets the band back together. They all gather up, and voila, he's fixed it. They've got, I guess this is a cheap renewable energy or something like that. Basically, it's going to take down fossil fuels, so it's a big deal. And immediately we figure out that Morgan Freeman. I'm sorry. There's red herrings in this, and it's pretty much intentional. But Morgan Freeman steps off to use the phone. It looks like.
Yeah.
And he was making cigars look really good in this movie, by the way. He
really was. Good use of good hand acting. Good use of props.
Excellent.
But yeah, he steps into the back office to make a phone call, and everybody else decides to put on the reggae and get shit faced.
They are getting fucked up. Yeah.
It needs to be said, Rachel Weisz is a brilliant actress when it comes to portraying a drunk person.
Oh, she's done it twice, and she does it very well both times.
She is charming as all hell and believable.
I congratulate Tyler Labine in oh goddamn, Zack and Miri Make a Porno, the best drunk acting I've ever seen. But she's up there. She does a really good job. Actually, my note is, should she be driving? Keanu kind of just waffles through that one. Luckily, her car didn't start.
Your battery's dead. I can tell from the noise.
He actually barely talks in this movie.
Yeah, he doesn't have many lines, and his motivations are hazy at best.
I'm not even sure what he does. I mean, like, it gets a little fuzzy. And I mean, as far as with the hydrogen bomb, I just want to call it the hydrogen. Let's call it the hydrogen thing, because he's a machinist, and that's his relationship to this hydrogen thing. But near the end of the movie, he's also, like, I think he's a physicist as well.
He's an expert physicist as well.
Yeah.
And his motivations are hazy throughout the film. In fact, there's a moment much later on that I'll highlight, but I'll bring it up now anyway, where Morgan Freeman is, like, mean mugging Rachel Weisz and saying, like, oh, so-and-so will come and save her. Eddie Kasalovich is Keanu's name in this, by the way. Benefits of being mixed race: you can play whatever the fuck. But what struck me as being weird in that is that's a line from an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie or a Stallone movie, where the villain has the hero's lady captured, and then he's like, oh yeah, he'll come. It's like, he's a physicist, and he, like, wasn't that tight with her until, like, a couple days ago, until you tried to kill them, basically. And now you're just banking on him showing up for her. It's like, what if he just decides to run? It's like, is your whole plan banking on him being a complete fucking idiot? Rachel is drunk as fuck.
Yeah.
Most of the other party goers they've left the factory. Dr. Chen and Alistair, the British Dr. Wiley guy, fake Oliver Reed, they're staying behind, and I guess they're doing some number crunching or some computations of some sort. They're both on the phone talking in, I think, Russian for Alistair and Mandarin for Dr. Chen, so they're busy.
Yeah.
Keanu, on the other hand, he's getting ready to hop on his bike and go home, but he sees that Rachel's, Lily is her name, by the way.
Yes, Lily.
She's trying to start her car, which she shouldn't be.
She shouldn't be.
First place. But he points out that your battery's dead, and then he's not sure what to do now because he has a motorcycle and no extra gear for her. So he's like, "You'll freeze to death." Put a pin in that, and so they get a cab together, I think, and he takes her home.
He takes her home, he tucks her in, and of course he's, sweet Keanu Reeves. We know for a fact that he's never going to lay a finger on her or make a move. Nope. Good guy.
He's a gentleman. Yeah.
And, he tucks her in, and we cut back to the warehouse factory facility at the University of Chicago by the train. It looks like it's in a bad neighborhood, too. I'm just saying.
I wasn't joking. This looks like the factory at the end of RoboCop.
And this definitely feels I do appreciate this, is when we film in the elements. Nothing drives me more nuts. Like, if you watch that the Gremlins movie, you're like, that's Back to the Future with stuff like snow sprayed on it. I hate that. We're in real winter here in Chicago.
Yeah, soap flakes do not translate to snow.
Drives me nuts.
But so I got a laugh here. I don't know if you got the same laugh. Maybe you did. But we're cutting back and forth between three different things at this point. The doctors doing their computations at the factory, Keanu escorting Rachel home, and then
Hans Gruber.
Sinister van that as soon as I saw it, I shouted out loud, "The Libyans!
The Libyans!
The Libyans!"
I was thinking Hans. I was thinking when Hans makes his entrance in Die Hard. I was just like, this is just the
if
goons.
you put some Beethoven over that, yeah, it would be the exact same scene of the truck pulling up to Nakatomi Plaza. But yeah, the whole all of my notes here, every time the goons come up, I call them the Libyans.
The Libyans. That's fair.
But yeah, this is like when the score starts kicking in. So Jerry Goldsmith makes his appearance in earnest. And Keanu heads back because he left his motorcycle at the factory.
He has to go get it.
Yeah, he's got to go pick up his baby. And he heads inside the factory, though, and a klaxon's going off. The machine is on, and it's going haywire. And then he finds Alistair dead. He has a plastic bag over his head.
Great dead acting here. I don't think this was a dummy either, because I saw fillings in the guy's mouth. I'm like, I think this is dead acting here.
Yeah, he's doing a dead fish thing with his mouth is wide open and he's laying on the ground. It doesn't look comfortable, but yeah, very good dead acting from this man.
I think it deserved a standing ovation. I thought it was fantastic.
Slow clap for that dead acting.
Seriously, it was great.
So Keanu runs around the factory for a bit. He tries to shut down the machine. Can't be done.
We missed an important thing a little further back that kind of helped us realize there's going to be a conflict. Morgan Freeman and Alistair were having an exchange in the office while everybody was partying. Put a pin in that. Morgan Freeman has left the facility at this point, and it's just the two guys in there. I apologize. So
no, thank you. That is an important detail. And it also needs to be said that Keanu is running around the factory because he found Alistair, but he can't find Chen.
No, he cannot find Chen.
Yeah, he cannot find him. So he runs around for a bit, but then he gets wise to the fact that, that machine is rocking and a-rolling.
Yeah.
And it's essentially a hydrogen bomb.
You ever seen those videos of when they throw a cement block into a dryer that's still plugged in and just dum, 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 dum. Yeah. Yeah, that's what's happening.
Yeah, no. This man has no dick, and he plans on unleashing all the ghosts in New York.
Yes.
Things are not looking good. So he decides to book it. He hops on his motorcycle, and he takes off, and we get a classic running away from the explosion shot.
A very 90s explosion shot.
Yeah, this is the 90s encapsulated.
It looked better than The Day After Tomorrow, like those effects that they were throwing in there. I mean, for 1996, I'm like, this isn't that bad. This is pretty decent. A few shots were pretty decent.
Yeah, I was about to cut you off there.
Yeah.
So this was at that really curious and amazing time in special effects history where CGI was a tool that was widely available at this point, because Jurassic Park kind of like got the ball rolling, where it's like, okay, this is a thing that people like. This is a thing that if we can make it work, it's gonna make us some money. But practical effects like practical explosions and miniatures in particular were still widely used. They still kind of are to this day, but I guess not widely. But yeah, the good shots in this explosion sequence are the miniature ones.
Correct.
Where it's a physical object exploding, probably doctored with some degree of post-processing or CGI. But the straight-up CGI shots, though, are kind of raggedy. It's similar to Dante's Peak, I guess. Dante's Peak has some wonderful practical effects, but the CGI elements gets a little raggedy here and there. Volcano is just raggedy top to bottom. But yeah, we get Keanu riding on his motorcycle away from essentially a hydrogen bomb explosion, and he survives.
Yeah, by the grace of God. He wasn't even leveled by that shockwave.
Yeah, by the way, the explosion is triggered by the people in the van.
Yes.
Who we see driving away. And what I could be wrong, but there's the guy with the monkey butt haircut, that he was part of the original team that was working on the machine. I want to say he was in the van.
It's very possible.
And then he shows up at the end of the movie as a jackass. So, like, he was part of the the scheme from the get-go.
Very possible. I didn't notice him, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was an inside job. I mean, it had to have been a little bit of an inside job, or somebody working with Morgan Freeman there. He's like, okay, here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna do this.
It could just be me being like reverse racist and seeing a white guy with a monkey butt haircut and just assuming it's the same guy.
Yeah, that's fair. You can do that. So yeah, he makes it, and then Morgan Freeman. He's sitting there on his computer with his really delicious looking cigar, and he's like, oh, it's a new energy and such and so forth. And then what prompts him to go out and look outside, or does he get a phone call?
He gets a phone call.
Yeah, he gets a phone call, and he's like, what? And he goes over to his window, or does he have a balcony?
He has a balcony.
Yeah, he's got a balcony, and I'd say maybe 10 miles away this explosion happened. And he didn't feel it, didn't hear it, nothing. He was like, oh, well, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, it's kind of weird that he didn't feel it or anything.
He didn't feel it.
Fred Ward cites the explosion as being roughly like 8 city blocks in terms of density. But this shot of him looking through the city towards like the inflamed night sky is not good.
Oh, no, it's not good at all.
It doesn't look good. It's one of those things that's like, I get why it's there. It shows the scale of the explosion a bit more from a different perspective, but it's just not good.
Yeah.
Not by today's standards. And then I think at this point we're introduced to the FBI.
The FBI. And no, it's not Johnson & Johnson. It's Kevin Dunn, a very pudgy Kevin Dunn. Subdued Kevin Dunn.
It's funny, you call him pudgy? This is streamlined. This is like prime Kevin Dunn.
But like he lost a little bit of weight because he's got like a fat round face in this. He slims down moving forward.
I disagree. I think he gets quite a bit larger.
Fred Ward, who we kind of mentioned earlier, but he is like a Tommy Lee. He's like a Tommy Lee Jones surrogate. He just doesn't have the charisma of Tommy Lee Jones. Like he very much plays a straight laced, kind of hard ass guy, but Tommy Lee Jones is way harder ass. I'm thinking.
Yeah, it's kind of a tough trick to pull off. And there's a reason why Tommy Lee Jones, he got his supporting actor Oscar, I believe.
For Fugitive.
I believe so.
Yeah. Oh, and he ad-libbed that one line too.
No, there's a reason why he got the nod for that. It's because he's very good at that. He's great. He's always great, except for Batman Forever.
I will disagree.
But Fred Ward, on the other hand, is also great. I really like Fred Ward.
Oh yeah,
Tremors was one of my favorite movies.
Oh yeah, you love Tremors,
and it was mostly because of him. But Fred Ward he plays that guy. He's a cowboy.
Yeah,
like he's chummy, but in terms of like playing a hard ass or like an enforcer of some sort, he's too likable. Like the whole time you're like, he doesn't really seem like he cares that much about catching anyone. He's just kind of like, whatever.
Tommy Lee Jones drives me nuts sometimes. Like in The Fugitive, U.S. Marshals, he's stubborn. I think that's what it is. It's just like he's smart and he's stubborn. So you're just like, God damn it! And he has authority. There's nothing I can do. He's gonna get his way. God damn it.
Well, also needs to be said that U.S. Marshals, basically the only reason. U.S. Marshals is what the lone gunman of movies. Are you familiar?
The lone gunman?
Yeah.
No.
If I remember right, the lone gunmen were it was kind of like the MythBusters guys, but on the X-Files.
Oh yes.
So it's just two weird nerds that would hang out with David Duchovny. Three weird nerds. Okay, so they got their own show at one point, if I remember right.
Did they?
I believe so. It didn't last very long.
I could believe that. They were. I was always excited when I saw them on the X-Files.
They were apparently popular enough to get a series of their own, or at least it was workshopped at some point. So U.S. Marshals I think of as being just that, where it's like people's favorite parts. It's kind of like The Lost World almost, where it's like, Jeff Goldblum kind of ran away with that fucking movie. Mm-hmm. Maybe we should just give him the fucking movie. And so U.S. Marshals is like, everybody's favorite part of The Fugitive was Tommy Lee Jones and Joe Pantoliano and those other people.
Those other people.
Maybe we should just give their crew the whole movie. and Fred Ward and Kevin Dunn are not Joe Pantoliano and those other people.
No.
Which is kind of sad, but they give it a shot.
If you let Kevin Dunn be more Kevin Dunn, he could be, but he's not Kevin Dunn in this. Like
Kevin Dunn needs to have a child. He needs to have someone that he has authority over to yell at.
No, they needed to not cast Fred Ward. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Kevin Dunn needs to be the one leading this. He's the uptight one who needs to be stressing out and yelling at people about stuff.
Yeah, that's how you make the best use of your Kevin Dunn. Is he needs to be stressed the fuck out. He needs to have a wife or somebody telling him, like, mind your heart, honey.
Who's the only one worth remembering in that Godzilla movie that you hate? Kevin Dunn. He's the one running shit.
And that's a very subdued Kevin Dunn also.
A little bit.
He raises his voice here and there, but he doesn't, like, throw a conniption fit or anything.
He plays a bad guy in Stir of Echoes. Colonel Oates from Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey is in here as well as one of the other FBI guys. He's the one that looks like he's wearing a toupee. We should probably move on with the plot. So the
media circus.
Yes.
At the explosion site.
Yeah. Media circus. We've got Morgan Freeman. They've got a few other people. They're doing some questioning at FBI headquarters. They're rounding up everybody. They don't have Rachel Weisz or Keanu. They get Rachel Weisz.
They get everyone. And they interrogate all.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, separately. I'm sorry. Yeah, they get them all separate. They get their stories, make sure they match up and everything like that.
And it's pretty brief montage, just clips here and there of everybody being interviewed individually. The main theme throughout all these discussions is like, where were you? What were you doing? And by the way, where is Dr. Chen? Everybody keeps asking about Dr. Chen.
So this is a two-way whodunit. This is Keanu trying to figure out what's happening, along with the FBI trying to figure it out. The Fugitive is just them trying to find him, and him trying to solve who killed his wife. There's too many whodunits in this movie.
There's too many whodunits, and I don't know. It doesn't have that personal touch, I guess, where it's like Harrison Ford was like, his wife got killed.
There's motivation.
He's understandably upset.
Keanu's just like, no, I'm not going in because I got to figure this out.
Oh no, that old guy who pays my rent is dead.
I fucking love that guy.
Oh no, how am I going to make rent next month?
I wish I could just do Matt's voice, because then that could be a Keanu voice, an inside Keanu voice.
Go back to working at Jack in the Box.
This is gonna suck.
The summer is gonna suck.
Did you see Bram Stoker's Dracula? So they're looking for Dr. Chen. He's the missing piece, and Morgan Freeman's like, well, I believe he was probably killed in the explosion, but they can't seem to find Dr. Chen.
Yeah. So this is where things get a little goofy. By the way, Rachel, a little bit. Yeah. Rachel lives at Alistair's house. She lives on the third floor of his house because kindness of his heart, he lets her live there.
Yeah. Okay.
So the FBI kicks the door down. They start rooting through all of his stuff.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to get to the bottom of what the fuck happened. Meanwhile, they just kind of let Keanu and Rachel Weisz mill about. Like they aren't detained anymore.
No.
Apparently, they're just allowed to wander about at will. So they go upstairs and they're having a conversation, and they get a fax.
Yeah.
There's a fax machine in the room that just goes. It just poops out some papers, and Rachel grabs the papers and she's like, "Oh, it's from Dr. Chen." And Keanu's like, "Whoa."
This is the moment where I'm like, okay, this is gonna be interesting.
And this is the part where it needs to be said, from an acting, from a performance standpoint, everybody shows up to play for this movie.
Yeah, Keanu's there. He's a little tired, but he's there.
I seem to remember reading that he broke his leg on this film or something.
I can believe it.
And it needs to be said, he has a bad run.
Oh, I wanted to mention that. Not as bad as Brian Cox's at the end, which we'll get to. Oh, it was great. Even Steph.
It was glorious.
Steph was watching this with me. She's like, he runs funny.
Thank you for pointing that out. It's only in exactly one shot, but I'm so glad we all noticed that.
I need a GIF of it. There's got to be a GIF of Brian Cox running.
I think I still have this movie on rental. I think I can get it for you.
Okay.
I will make that GIF. Anyway, This is what I'm trying to say here is that everybody from an acting standpoint shows up to play. The score is pretty on point. The script is the problem. This is not a very good script, as evidenced by all the vague pseudoscience throughout the film. And at one point, I actually had to take note of this because Rachel, after reading the facts, suspects that they're being framed. So much so to the point that she has to look just past the camera in close-up and say, "I'm being framed." I'm like, thanks for pointing that out, Rachel.
Whoever thought this scene was edited well is an idiot, because this is the most awkward exchange. Like the little hug, he gives her like a half-hearted hug kind of thing. Like there's no chemistry between the two in this scene. I think it gets better as it goes along. And by the way, later you get Keanu and Rachel Weisz in a with her in a bathtub again, just like in Constantine. Weird. Interesting. I'll mention later what I said to Steph.
Fascinating.
So let's move along. And I think we're going to go back to Keanu's flat. We're going to go back to his loft at some point. He starts to walk up, and then the cops get there before him, and he's like, "Oh no, they're at my loft." And they end up booking it, getting away from there. They're like, "I don't think we're going to turn ourselves in. There's a conspiracy going on here, and we're just not having it." So the FBI get up to his loft, and Kevin Dunn, see this, I like this. Kevin Dunn's kind of running the scene. He's like, "I want all that." He just points to it. He's not even to say, he's just, "I want all of it." He's like, "What's this? Hydrogen thing? Probably." And then some guy comes up over the balcony. He's like, "Hey, what's this?" And he's like, "It's a transmitter, probably to China," because they pick up some piece of paper. It's got Chinese. It's got Mandarin on it, I believe. And then another guy is opening up what I always assumed was a bomb. Like whenever you saw this in movies, you're like, "That's a homemade bomb."
Yeah, and you don't want to open that.
Caution to the wind. This guy just starts cutting it open, and it's 200. It's 250 grand, and he's like, "Yo, boss!" And now we've got.
When you open a present, with a bow, you can pull it a certain way, and it just opens. This guy just
opens it straight up.
But they suspected Keanu right from the start because apparently he had a bad history of doing experiments that caused explosions.
Yeah, so, but, yeah, I guess he had an incident. He was expelled or something like that. Morgan Freeman's like, "Yeah, it was just an accident. It would have been really great if that hadn't happened. He was just, working on a little something." And I guess it was just a misunderstanding. It caused some property damage. They had to let him go. What a big deal, apparently. But yeah, they want to pin this on him. They're like, he's just fitting it perfectly.
Yeah, a little too Raph.
Yeah.
So at this point, Keanu and Rachel are a pair. They're on the run.
They are fugitives.
If you've ever seen the cover to the George Clooney movie, The Peacemaker, that's what they are throughout this movie. It's just handsome man, gorgeous woman holding hands on the run in a city. I mean, it's the prototypical action thriller from the 90s. So they're on the run. They meet up with Morgan Freeman in a parking garage.
Yeah, and I like this.
This is where the complexities, more just like haziness of his character, but it's supposed to be complex, starts to rear its ugly head. So he is immediately like helpful towards them. Although the first thing he tells them is, "Turn yourselves in." Yeah. It's like, "Yeah, I got a lawyer. Let's go talk to the FBI." And Keanu's like, "What? I don't know, man.
That doesn't sound good."
"That doesn't sound like a good deal, Shannon."
Oh, we forgot to mention Morgan Freeman, just based off of the houses he has in this, is a multi-millionaire, if not billionaire.
Houses plural, yeah.
House, like noise houses.
Yeah, I mean, when we saw him in that balcony shot overlooking the city, I don't know what that was, but apparently he owns that.
If that was just his condo, we're like, okay, he's doing pretty well. Like, no, he's got a couple other houses. So.
I mean, that might be his loft where he sees his side piece or whatever. But I don't know. He's got multiple properties.
If a guy like that says, "Hey, I've got a lawyer. We're gonna get out of this," I'm like, okay, that sounds good.
It's like I believe you.
I believe in you. But yeah, he's like, he's talking to them. He's like, what are you guys going to do? Like, it's apparent that Keanu's not going to turn himself in, and Rachel Weisz isn't going to do it either. So he's like, what are you going to do? He's like, I'm going to go to Maggie's. And he's like, do you have any money? He's like, no, like $50. He throws him a wad of cash, and they end up, they get out of there. And they go to the Hyatt, some kind of Hyatt hotel bar.
Yeah. I think it's the hotel bar, and yeah, you're right. It was the Hyatt.
They're sitting there and they're like, what are we going to do? We got to go figure this shit out. There's a little bit of, just dialogue. Almost immediately, their faces appear on the TV. Like, hey, we're looking for this dude. He's missing. This lady, very hot. And then this guy, looks like Matt. And they... this fucking guy at the bar, this
hey, you, come here. Come here.
This guy was fat as fuck too. Like, he's skinny fat. Like, he's like, oh, that guy's kind of fit. And then he stands up and like, oh, that gut's hanging over the belt there, buddy. Yeah. But he's just like, do you see that guy? He saw the back of his head. That's all he saw, and he just starts chasing after him, or he just starts walking after him. He's like, what does he say? He's like, hey, stop, or hey, you, turn around.
I swear he says, hey, you, come here.
Yeah, absolutely not. And he
as
runs.
Soon as Keanu shoots him a look, though, he runs away. He runs to the cops.
He runs over to the cops, and the cops, without even like being prompted, they're just like, oh, okay, we got to go start chasing this guy.
Needs to be said. Something that my dad always had problems with in movies was police response time. This one, these guys are on top of it.
There's like, one scene that is impossible, and the payphone scene is this is an impossible scene.
Yeah,
it cannot be happening.
Thank you for pointing that out. That was actually very strange. But yeah, it needs to be said. All the cops, all the FBI agents, all the Libyans in this movie are on top of their shit.
As we're moving,
we get our like first proper chase in our action thriller. It's a foot chase.
I see you're watching your parents' dog.
Yeah,
I thought I heard something. Oh, sorry.
What the fuck was that?
Yeah, I was like, dude, you got a rat? I'm like, nope, that's a dog. Yeah. So we're getting our fugitive on here, and
streets of Chicago,
and somehow the FBI get wind of Keanu's running around downtown, and they got the cops chasing him, and we get to a bridge. Would you like to talk about the bridge part?
Yeah, so one thing that I'm a big fan of in action movies, and I need to point out that I'm actually not a big fan of this scene. But,
oh, no, it's not a lot of payoff.
So something I like in my action movies, and it's a little bit of a lost art, is set pieces. I like when I say truck chase in reference to Raiders of the Lost Ark. Everybody knows like the 5-minute stretch of time that I'm talking about in that film.
Truck chase, T2. That's what I think of.
Okay, well, in reference to Raiders of the Lost Ark, though,
I got you.
If I'm talking about that movie and I say, "Hey, Kyle, remember the truck chase?"
I don't.
Oh,
that's why I was like, I know you're trying to help me here. I'm like, nope, I don't got it.
Or the plane fight.
Okay, you got me there. You got me the plane fight. Yeah.
Or in like Mission Impossible Fallout, the bathroom fight.
Okay, now I'm with you.
I love things like that, where it's like a big trend that seems to be happening.
I remember the truck chase. I apologize. I remember the truck chase now. Sorry.
Thank you for redeeming yourself on the air. God damn. A trend that seems to have popped up in like the past 10 years of action movies is cross-cutting between multiple things happening concurrently. Like I've brought this up before, but the worst example I can think of is Cradles of the Grave, wherein like I think we cut back and forth between Anthony Anderson trying to like pull one over on somebody in a building, DMX on an ATV, and Jet Li fighting the entire UFC at the time. And the majority of the screen time goes to DMX on that goddamn ATV. By cutting back and forth between all of these things, you lessen the impact of all of them. Mm-hmm. In this case, Rachel Weisz is pushed into a cab. Keanu tells her, buy a train ticket for me and you. I will meet you at the station at such and such time. So he's engaged in a foot chase. She's a non-issue. We know she's safe. She got away. So what I like about this scene is that it's focused. Is that we never cut away from him running away from the cops, because we're trying to keep the tension up, and the way you do that is you don't don't cut away from it.
Yeah.
So the gimmick for this foot chase, because we've all seen foot chases, it's like one of the most common things. Like, and parkour wasn't a thing yet, so we're not doing that yet. The gimmick here is that there's a drawbridge involved. So the drawbridge goes up, and Keanu has to run up a steep grade. We get a fun little stunt here where a cop actually tries to like crawl up after him, and gets like and stumbles and falls off. So we get to see him sliding down and like a steep incline on the bridge, which is kind of fun. But then we get like 10 minutes of Keanu very slowly crawling into the underside of the bridge, and then like the bridge getting lowered and him stalling the bridge by throwing. If there are gears in an action movie, something has to get jammed in them. It's just a rule. It's just a rule. Something has to get jammed in those gears. But the scene just drags on too long, and there's no. The score is going nuts, but the energy level is very low.
Well, there's a way to shoot these where you're like, how's he gonna get out of this? Like, I just don't see how he's gonna get out of it. And you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't see that coming. I didn't know how he thought of that. This is like, how's he gonna get out of it? And then when it's over, you're like, how did he just get out of that? It's very unclear as to how he gets out of this situation.
I don't think an explanation is provided.
He just
he stalls the bridge and then somehow gets out. And then they come in and he's not there anymore, and then he like falls into a garbage truck.
It's kind of like a tunnel scene where like, oh, the cops are coming from this end of the tunnel and this end of the tunnel. Like, where am I going to go? There's nowhere to go. Oh, either down or through a door. Like, I have to go through a sewage door thing, whatever you call those things, or find a door and go underneath somehow. But here's just like
or do some other thing where like there's a chaotic crowd scene where like a steam vent goes off, and then like he puts his jacket up over his head and just slips out the back or something, But no, it just kind of the way it's edited, he just kind of gets away.
He just gets away. Yeah, he gets away, and he makes it to the train with Rachel Weisz, and they're out of there.
Yeah, it's a cute reunion, but it's a nothing little scene.
Next, we get to the Senate hearing, which I found to be very interesting. I believe that's the next.
This felt like something that was maybe written after they cast Morgan Freeman. Where it's like, oh shit, we got Morgan Freeman. We better give him a speech.
We got to give him
or three.
Yeah, he's got to have a couple of speeches. A little bit of. Well, he gives us the exposition at the end, like what was the whole point of this? Blah 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 blah. But here we get Brian Cox is sitting in this meeting. Morgan Freeman and I believe it's his assistant or a couple other people are sitting in front of a few senators, and they're questioning him about, oh, well, we're giving you all this money, and where's it all going? We're not seeing anything, and. The two FBI agents are there as well. But there's an exchange back and forth, and the senator says something. He says, what assurances do I have that something like this isn't going to happen again? Now, I want to remind you folks listening, this was an explosion that leveled 8 city blocks. This is a national news story. This is going to be on the news constantly for the next month. Like, there's no getting around it.
8 city blocks visible from the heart of downtown Chicago.
This is one of the biggest fuck-ups ever. And Morgan Freeman is, they're like, what assurances do we have that, this isn't going to happen again? What the fuck are you talking about? You're not getting any more money. You're fired. There's no way you're getting any more funding. Whether this was somebody broke in and did this or you did this, one way or another, you were unfit to be overseeing this project. We are cutting funding immediately. But no, they're just like, what? Is this going to happen again? He's like, well, I don't know. It might.
Actually, like if I remember right, his response is none.
There are no assurances that this is going to happen
He's
again.
Like, I can't offer you any. But I'm Morgan Freeman, and if I just keep talking, you'll just fall in love with me. Because, goddamn, that's wonderful to listen to.
There's something interesting about Brian Cox. Now, I believe I've heard this from like maybe the Graham Norton show, or some British actors were talking about what's the easiest American accent to do, and whether they admit it or not, you and I both know it's Southern accent. That's the easiest one to do. And Brian Cox is again doing a Southern accent in this movie.
I always thought you were one of a kind.
One of a kind, yes. He always does a Southern accent, except for Super Troopers. He doesn't do a Southern accent in Super Troopers, but he does a Southern. I think his Hannibal Lecter is from the South, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I think you're right. I think in the Steven Seagal movie, The Glimmer Man. I'm pretty sure he does his there as well, and I think he also plays a CIA guy in that one too. He's very good at it.
I believe him. I believe him as a CIA agent or some kind of suit. I definitely see him as that. And I like him in this movie too. He's fun.
Brian Cox is great.
Oh yeah, he's always great.
He is so good at what he does.
Do you remember him as that piece of shit uncle in The Ringer?
Yes, I do.
That movie's awful, but he is the best part of it. He's great.
So, I believe following the Senate committee, we follow Morgan Freeman home to his mansion.
Yes.
This is the White House, apparently.
Pretty much.
And we see pretty blatantly that the FBI are surveilling him. They have agents posted like across. What would you call this? It's not across the street. He has like one of those driveways that's like 1,000 feet long.
It's across the street, rich people. So it means like it's like a couple acres away. Like it's a pretty decent distance. It's walkable, but you really have to have a reason to walk over there.
It's damn you, Adams.
Yeah, it's a damn you, Adams. Yes, correct.
Keep the ball, John. I've got a whole bucket.
Oh, it's not Halloween yet. Ugh, can't wait to watch it again.
The one detail that comes from this scene that's important for reasons like an hour from now is he seems fully aware that they're watching him, and he goes into his bedroom, and underneath some towels he finds a pistol that he grabs and puts on his person. End scene. And then we get introduced to C Systems in Virginia. So it's like an aerial shot. And by the way, we've had numerous on-screen titles in this movie for like important locations, some of which are not important at all, but people like titles. Anyway, we get introduced to this facility. Overhead shot. It looks like the Large Hadron Collider facility or something.
I was about to ask Steph, I'm like, is that the Pentagon? And I stopped myself. I'm like, no, Kyle, that's a circle. That's a circle building. That's not a Pentagon.
Shapes. It could be the Large Hadron Collider facility, although I have no idea when that was built, so I might be completely full of shit. Anyway, C Systems is apparently some sort of gigantic facility in Virginia, and Morgan Freeman seems to have some sort of sleazy side hustle going on with Mr. Brian Cox, whose character's name is Lyman, by the way. So they reconvene at C Systems. It's like an underground facility. And
the FBI have no jurisdiction. They can't get in there. It's way out of their pay grade.
Yeah. So they're like making the T virus there or something. Resident Evil reference.
Yeah, basically, it's an underground layer, basically.
Yeah, actually, it does kind of feel like a Bond movie or something.
Yeah.
So Morgan Freeman is like talking to like what looks like a board of directors almost.
Yeah.
And he gets a phone call though. That's from Keanu, who he expressly told to not call him. He said, "I will call you. Good job, Keanu. The one thing I told you not to do, you did it." And this is where the police response time comes in.
Yeah, we get Morgan Freeman. He picks up the phone. It's some other lady's voice, and then Keanu takes over, and then he immediately scrambles the signal, but the police are able to pick up on Keanu's payphone location. And they're like, okay, we've got him. While they're still having the conversation, which takes less than 30 seconds, the FBI are like, all right, alert the local authorities. Almost immediately, cops are just coming down the hill, blueberries and cherries all the way.
See, I would expect this from like a Chinese movie where it's like, we need to alert the central government. It's like, whatever problem we have, we need to alert the central government.
Do you remember
Cue action military guy springing in to save the day.
See, remember how much fun Enemy of the State was? But they knew pretty much at all times where he was. It was just like, okay, he's in one of these 4 buildings, and then they've got teams of dudes running all over the place looking for him. Like, oh, he's over here. Barry Pepper must have been in incredible shape for that movie, because all the shots I can just remember seeing Barry Pepper sprinting. Barry Pepper, Jake
Busey, and the guy from Ocean's 11. The
kind
of dopey
Caan.
looking dude.
Yeah. That's James Caan's son.
They
Scott
all
Caan.
They all had frosted highlights. That's all you need to know.
Yeah, they all had frosted highlights. But yeah,
Barry Pepper did do a lot of sprinting.
He's the main face that they show of that team. Like he's in almost every shot with Will.
Should have given more screen time to Jake Busey.
I'll rewatch that. I remember that being a lot of fun.
I thoroughly enjoyed that movie, and it's worth talking about right now because it does bear some similarities to this. You know, it's people running away from giant shadowy organization.
Yeah.
It's a thing you can't fight. So all you can do is run and hope that you can outrun the technology.
Run.
We
forgot to mention that Keanu meets up with Maggie. She's got an observatory. She's got a giant telescope. She's looking at shit. And she's the one.
She wears a leather jacket.
Yeah.
She's that kind of scientist.
She's pretty cool. I guess she's an
cool scientist.
Old friend of Keanu's, and she's the one that takes him to the payphone. And the cops, lay chase. They're searching for him, and they get back to the observatory, and the janitor from Scrubs, he gets the drop on him basically, and he's like, "Hey, freeze!" And they just take off running into the observatory. And he's like, "Hey, come back! Hey, stop running!"
They do not listen to him.
They do not listen. He has no authority here, and he managed to gets him up on the roof, and. Steph was actually pointing out how this is really bad. He's got him on the roof, and he's like, "Freeze!" And they realize that they're done. Like we're done now. And he's like, "Turn around, walk towards me. That's close enough." I'm like, and she's like, "No." He would tell them to get on the ground, put their hands behind their head, and he gets them pretty close. And a helicopter, the T-1000, basically just pops up out of nowhere in a helicopter, and. They're like, "Well, I guess these are the cops. They're done for now. Where's this gonna go?" Well, it's actually the goons, the Libyans. The Libyans shoot the cop, and Keanu takes the dude's gun, and they take off running again.
Yeah, it needs to be said that this entire chase is happening in Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
And it is snowy as fuck out. It's very cold. By the way, not so much T-1000 in the helicopter made me think more of a Lethal Weapon when they're talking to Tom Atkins and just helicopter goes
correct.
Whoop.
That's actually 100% correct. You're right.
But yeah, the Libyans are in the chopper, by the way.
Yeah.
They have themselves a aerial RV.
Nice.
So this foot chase ensues, and like you had mentioned, important detail here is that janitor from Scrubs is now dead.
Yeah.
And Keanu has his gun. So now Keanu has a weapon.
Yes.
Oh no, a physicist with a gun. Look out.
He doesn't even know gun fu yet.
Yeah. This is quite a while before John Wick, so he did not know how to handle it very well. So the big set piece here, and again, many action thrillers coming out at this time, so we need a gimmick. We can't just have people running, especially since Keanu does not look good on screen running. And like I said, I do believe he broke his leg on the set for this movie.
No, so I actually did find out what happened. He injured himself he was in Canada, and he was just doing like a pickup game of hockey. I guess they do that. And he injured his neck and back, and that's why he's so rigid in this movie. Like he's just very not Keanu.
He does not move well in this movie.
He is not young, dumb, and full of cum like he was in Point Break. So
I also read that I can't remember what movie it was, but it was one that I was considering doing for this month. But anyway, I read that he gained a substantial amount of weight for the role, and it was apparently easy because he was injured at the time. So I think just like, fuck it.
He gained it because of the injury. I think that was why. Oh, by the way, the motorcycle was a 1976 Kawasaki KZ1000 requested by Keanu Reeves himself. So there you
go. I kind of figured.
There you go.
But yeah, the gimmick here for this chase scene is a swamp boat.
You haven't seen season 2 of Archer, but immediately when I saw it, this airboat comes on there, and when I send you the second season of Archer for Christmas, he says, "I've been waiting my whole life to literally say this phrase. I'm commandeering this airboat," and that's immediately what I thought of. So yeah, he figures out how to drive an air. I don't know how hard it is to drive an airboat. They don't really entice me. They seem loud and not that great and super dangerous, but he manages to figure it out. he
There's a bit of a learning curve because he does go in a circle for about 20 seconds.
Apparently this was a difficult scene for them to shoot because, like I said, we're doing on location in the Chicago area, and it gets fucking cold up there. So I guess it was like the wind. It was so windy, and it was just really hard for them to shoot because it was so cold. But yeah, they hop onto this airboat and they're going across the lake and they're trying to shake this helicopter.
Dude, it needs to be said, like in terms of like energy of editing and quality of shots, this scene was actually maybe one of the best in the movie.
It's not bad.
There's some great helicopter shots, not just in terms of like the piloting of the chopper that's in the film, but like the camera rig on the chopper.
Mm-hmm.
Just ace, good stuff. It needs to be said though, this looked dangerous as fuck.
Yeah, it did. It looked very dangerous.
I'm guessing Rachel Weisz and her stunt woman were strapped the fuck in because they're just bouncing around. Like they're on an ice lake, so it's not even. Like they're bouncing around. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, she could go flying out of the boat any second now. And there's a chopper chasing them. I don't even know how they evade the chopper. They just like take a turn and somehow the aerial RV cannot follow them. It's like, what the fuck just happened? But they get out of the airboat. Keanu puts a sandbag on the gas pedal, because apparently airboats have gas pedals, and it just takes off. It's very similar to Tremors, like when they set the lawnmower or whatever going. And then the chopper chases after the airboat, and too little too late, they discover, oh hey, Keanu and Rachel are not in there anymore. And I believe we cut to them trudging through ice water at this point.
They end up walking through some ice. I was going to say the cop casting in this movie is superb. I think I read in The Fugitive there was a couple of people who were like actual cops from Chicago. I wouldn't be surprised if like the emergency response team that were on the airboat, I'm pretty sure they were probably real EMTs or paramedics. I think a lot of the cops in this movie, the cops on the stakeout, I'm pretty sure these were all real cops. I wouldn't be surprised at all if they were all real Chicago, because they all have they all have the Ditka mustache, and they all look about 20 or 30 pounds overweight.
What they needed was Dennis Farina on the set.
That's too on the nose, but yeah.
I know, but imagine his contribution to this film. Like, that's actually part of what this was missing. Is like a snappy, fun guy.
Dennis Farina would have just tightened this whole thing up. It would have been a lot more fun.
Like, imagine like Kevin Dunn butting heads with Dennis Farina.
I like that.
That would be great.
Yeah, that would have been pretty great.
I would love that. But I'm so glad you brought up the casting of the cops because, like I said, Above the Law is the first movie that comes to mind when I think of this director, Andrew Davis. That movie took place in Chicago. I think you pointed out he also did Under Siege and The Fugitive. There is a guy that looks like Teddy Roosevelt but with like white hair that is in every movie I just mentioned, I think. And then he also did Code of Silence with Chuck Norris, which is also takes place in Chicago. I'm not a big Chuck Norris fan.
I've never seen a single minute of his movies.
They're generally not very good, but I think I put Lone Wolf McQuaid at the top and then Code of Silence just below it. And Code of Silence is very good. And again, that Teddy Roosevelt looking guy and half of the other cops in all of the movies we've just been mentioning are in there. And I have a strong feeling that Andrew Davis has a strong connection to Chicago. And one of the cops in this movie was actually in The Dark Knight. Like, I have no idea what his name is, but
I know exactly who you're talking about.
He's the guy in the elevator when the Joker crashes Bruce Wayne's party. He's the guy that's like holding up the badge as like the false front.
He's like a blink and you miss him. Yeah, like I recognized him.
He's one of Gordon's guys, like one of Jim Gordon's guys that's apparently corrupt or something. Anyway, we're trudging through the ice water, and this is where the goofy editing starts to rear its ugly head again, because I think we're in the ice water for about 10 seconds, and then Rachel Weisz says, I can't feel my legs.
Yeah. Hypothermia doesn't kick in this quick.
Yeah, it was real quick. And then, we get out of the water. We find an abandoned mansion.
Yeah, we get in. I'll chalk it up to lake house, because they were on a lake. That's how they got away. I guess rich people only use their lake house in the summertime, and Steph and I were like, I would just live at the lake house. Like that, I would just go fishing. You live in the lake house.
It's a very large piece of property.
Yeah, it's a big piece of house. And yeah, we get in, and this is pretty funny. He kicks the door in. There's sheets up. Let us know that the house is not being used right now. And he's like, I'm going to turn on the stove to get you warm.
We have fire.
He's an idiot. You turn on the oven. You turn the oven to 500, and you open the door. Jesus.
Yeah.
So I was like, why don't you get a bath going? Why would you be turning on that? And he does get a bath going after this. And we get, again, like I said, Constantine. We get Keanu Reeves with, I mentioned this to Steph while we were watching. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, look, it's Keanu Reeves and Rachel Weisz, and he's got her in a bathtub. Just like in Constantine. She's like, huh? Like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, yeah. He drowns her in a tub in Constantine to send her to hell.
Yep. She's like, oh.
I don't need a context for that.
He's like, that sounds nice.
She's trying to find her twin sister in hell. And she's like, whatever.
It's like, I'm glad you watch good movies, boyfriend.
Thanks for watching that one without me.
Yeah. But yeah, they do the body to body thing where he's trying to warm her up. It's all done. It's all cut tastefully. There's very little romance involved here. But yeah, the editing here is kind of goofy because we see him in the kitchen and he lays down on top of her with some blankets and they got the stove going.
Yeah.
And then yeah, we cut to her in a bathtub and she's got her clothes on and he's like, I don't know, sprinkling water on her. Yeah, it's weird. Like the sequencing feels off somehow where it's like, hang on, I feel like there's a whole scene missing here because her in the bathtub lasts about 5 seconds. And there's no explanation given as to why he's in there with her or why she's still in her clothes.
Yeah.
It just comes out of nowhere. It's a weird little detail.
Can we... Go ahead. I was going to say, can we get to my favorite line in the whole movie when we get...
Absolutely.
The FBI agents are talking to Morgan Freeman at his house. Mm-hmm. They very rudely interrupt him while he's trying to work. The FBI come calling on Morgan Freeman at his house, and they're starting to kind of figure out that maybe Morgan Freeman's not giving him as much information as he could be, and questioning him. And Fred Ward says something to him, is like, so that justifies killing somebody or something like that, and Morgan Freeman's like, maybe, I don't know, and Fred Ward says national security doesn't include murdering people. Domestically, at least. I had a pretty good laugh at that.
No, Fred Ward is a good guy to give those lines. He has a good delivery.
Domestically, at least. No.
It needs to be said that that's actually like the thesis for Morgan Freeman's character. Mm-hmm. I don't think we mentioned during the Senate committee, he gives a big speech, like a big impassioned speech, and I don't remember word for word what is said, but essentially the point is we're in a technology or a technology or a science arms race right now with the rest of the world, and it's in our best interest to continually be ahead of the game, even if it costs a few lives here and there.
Yeah.
And this comes up again and again, even with the conversation you just mentioned. It also needs to be said that another little hiccup in the script here, one of the FBI agent guys, when they're investigating Morgan Freeman, brings up his past and how he came into all the money he has, like who's punching his meal ticket, basically. And DARPA comes up, and very similar to Rachel Weisz saying almost directly into the camera, I'm being framed. Yeah. The FBI guy says, oh, yeah, he's got some connections to DARPA. Then he puts the paper down and again pretty much looks directly into the camera. Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. For you folks at home who didn't know that.
I'm gonna tell you.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you, because none of these FBI guys in the room knew that.
Yeah. So now they're
eating sardines in bed.
Yeah.
Rachel Weisz is eating sardines, served up to her by Keanu. She got her makeup done in between scenes, apparently.
Yeah, she got.
Because she just came out of a frozen lake and just had a bath, but now she's all made up again. That's cool. And then I think we get Morgan Freeman and Brian Cox having a little tiff. Like they're having a pissing contest here.
Yeah, they argue off and on here and there. Yeah, because I have Brian Cox is Scottish. He usually does a southern accent. That's all I took from this scene.
It's a nothing little scene. This is stuff that carries on throughout the entirety of the film. It's basically they work together, but they don't like each other.
Yeah, it's to highlight that Morgan Freeman isn't the one. There's a little bit of a power struggle here, and it doesn't seem that Morgan Freeman is all bad, and it's more like Brian Cox is more the bad guy here.
I'm not such a bad guy. Once you get to know me. Bad guys in the house.
No, bad guys in the house. This is kind of the way this was shot was kind of funny. So Keanu's on his nightly freezing cold walk out in winter, and he comes back in, and I think there's people in the house.
There's a flashlight he sees through the window.
Yeah, he sees a flashlight up in the window, and he goes in, and he goes by the staircase. He has a gun, I think, at this point, so he's got his gun ready, and he turns his head around the staircase right as a man is walking by, and the way this was edited was kind of funny because the guy walks by, and Keanu puts his head back around, and he kind of does like a puzzled like, where'd he go? Like, you saw him walking. Where do you think he went?
Generally, when people walk in a straight line, they continue on that path, meaning past the staircase.
It was a weird shot. Like, why don't you just have him start walking up the stairs, not be puzzled by what just happened? It's like a dog. Like, where'd he go? Which way did he go?
Peekaboo with a child.
So he goes up here, and there's a scuffle with this first guy. He shoots him down the stairs, and now we have to find the other person. There's another guy walking around upstairs, and they get into a scuffle. The movie has to go on, so Keanu takes care of him as well.
Yeah, they get into a little wrestling match. It's typical 80s/90s fighting where there's no technique. It's just kind of two guys grabbing each other's coats and moving around.
Also, Keanu's injured at this point in real life, so he can't be doing too much grab ass.
I believe the fight ends with Rachel Weisz bopping the guy on the head with a piece of a toilet.
Yeah, Troy Duffy. I think Troy Duffy might have seen this. Like, oh yeah, that's a good idea.
Very disappointing. It doesn't break.
No, it doesn't break.
Yeah, I was like, what? Come
just
on, man.
Break it. Break the damn thing.
Yeah, it's porcelain. It looks great on camera. And you get that cool shatter noise, but no, it's just bonk, and he goes out. And then they jack those two guys' car.
Yes.
And in there, Rachel Weisz finds an ID card belonging to one of them that has the C Systems like branding on it. So now they're starting to put together the pieces. They're like, oh, C Systems. That's where the Libyans are from.
Yeah.
So they're starting to work their way towards Morgan Freeman and Brian Cox at this point. And now they stop at a flower shop.
Yeah.
Keanu tells Rachel, like, if it's crowded, don't go in. It's a flower shop.
Yeah. It's a flower
not gonna be
shop.
Crowded. In the dead of winter.
The dead of winter in a small town, and it's like Tuesday afternoon. Just Tuesday morning. Nobody's in there.
Yeah.
So yeah, they go in, and they're going to send some flowers out to Morgan Freeman to get a message to him, I suppose. We don't see the florist, the delivery driver, drop off the flowers, but the assistant, the wormy little assistant's like, I don't know who these are from, but somebody dropped you off some flowers.
Random British guy.
Yeah.
Like, that was weird. I don't know who that was. Maybe he's a producer or something, but it's like, oh, curious.
Why do you go
Is Morgan Freeman so rich that he has a British butler?
Why are you clouding your mind with
butler?
the inconsequential? Yeah, so yeah, he drops. Yeah, he's got a British butler. I mean, yeah, he's rich. Okay, that's what it is. That's why there's a British guy. He's like letting you know how much money he has. He has a British butler.
So. I didn't. Yeah, he wasn't even the best candidate for the job, but you know.
I like his voice.
I like his voice.
He talks funny.
He talks funny. I like it.
I like Morgan Freeman doesn't even know what British people are. He's just like, I like his voice. It's weird. It's like ours, but not quite the same. So yeah, the FBI end up getting the delivery driver at the end of the driveway. He's like, hey, we need you to step out of the car. Let me see your inventory, because they're going to track where these flowers came from. And I'm sitting there, and who pops out of the van, Trevor?
That would be baby Michael Shannon.
Baby, scrawny, skinny little Michael Shannon. And Steph's like, it's not Michael Shannon. I'm like, that's Michael Shannon. She's like, it's not
Michael Shannon.
And
as
then
soon as he started speaking.
I didn't even need him to start speaking, and then I was like, "Wait!" And he goes, oh, "You need to look at my, inventory. It's over there." I'm like, "That's 100% Michael Shannon." Yeah,
yeah. Like as soon as he started speaking, I was like, "Yep, that's him."
It's so weird seeing people that like they take on like this is a minor role. You got to get started somewhere as an actor, but like the roles he has now, it's just so funny to see that he was a delivery driver. Now he's one of the scariest human beings in a movie.
Well, even in the two shots that he's in, he's significantly taller than most of the people in the frame.
Very tall.
And like it needs to be said that like I think the first shot he's in, it's like over his ear almost, so you don't even see his face. But all I needed was just to hear his voice. And then the next shot, and there's only like two shots. It's just him standing against his van. He's like, yeah, he's a funny looking guy. He asked me to deliver some flowers. And it's like, yep, that's baby Michael Shannon, all right. And then back to back, man, like this movie hit me twice. Like, bam, bam, 1, 2. We get baby Michael Shannon and then a Spawn reference.
A Spawn reference?
There was a reference to Spawn in this movie.
What?
Yeah, so the letter that he sent to Morgan Freeman it was like Spawn versus something or other.
Oh!
And the FBI guys are debating what the code message is. Like, what the fuck does this mean? And so, like, someone suggests, like, oh, maybe it's a wrestling match or something. It's like, no, it's got to be something else. And then a lady says,
Dottie.
"Oh, Spawn, like the comic. Like it's that guy who came back from the dead and did the thing." And Todd McFarlane at the time is probably going, "Fucking yes,
yes,
fucking yes, hit the big time."
Oh, it's funny.
Well, yeah, via this floral delivery message.
Actually, Todd McFarlane was actually was probably filming Spawn at the time of this release.
I mean, that was what, 98?
97. Spawn was 97.
So yeah, absolutely.
And actually, I typed in Spawn, and the first thing that popped up was Spawn, Jeremy Renner, Jamie Foxx, Todd McFarlane. It's in the works, people. It's in the works.
Yeah, no, I was sending you updates there for a little while, but they seem to peter out for a little bit. We'll see. Maybe it ends up being a series instead of a movie. But Jamie Foxx is bankable. If they get him, they can get a movie.
That'll work.
That'll do. But yeah, they arrange a meeting with Morgan Freeman, Keanu, and Rachel and this was very funny. It's at the Smithsonian.
Yes.
So there's a bad B-reel shot in here that I just needed to point out where Keanu holds out the C-Systems ID card to Morgan Freeman, and we get a close-up of it. It's like that could be anyone's hand in any location holding that ID card. It's in the dark dimension somewhere. That was probably filmed months after this, but the font and the production quality of that ID card, it's like, man, Morgan Freeman, I know you're rich. You can afford better than that. It's like you can at least afford a laminator or some shit. But yeah, long story short, it's like a nothing conversation. Morgan Freeman finally drops the facade. Yeah. He finally like fesses up to the fact that that big explosion, I didn't necessarily do it, but I didn't stop it from happening. Yeah.
He's speaking it in not admissible. He's like, I don't know, might have happened, might not have happened. I don't know.
I mean, the way I think of it is like, you point at someone. He converted it into a thumb.
Yeah.
Where it's the political thumb, where it's like, no, that would depend on what is.
Yeah. What is your definition of guilty?
Yeah. But yeah, so Morgan Freeman has admitted that he's into some shady shit, and he wants Keanu and Rachel to turn themselves in and come work for him at C-Systems because he wants them to finish the experiment, basically. Yeah. Which is very strange, being as I thought they did that already before he blowed it up.
Yeah.
Anyway, the Libyans show up at the Smithsonian, And Keanu beats some ass here.
No, he stiff arms a dude. Like, okay, so yeah, he beats some ass. He literally gets out. He stiff arms a dude out. Like, he just boom. Dude gets down. I'm like, that dude's dead. That dude is fired. You are a goon, and you get stiff armed by the guy you're chasing. You get shot in the head.
You get stiff armed by a crippled physicist.
Oh, my. He's not even a physicist. He whittles with machines. He's not even.
He plays with keyboards and lathes at the same time. I don't even know what he does. But yeah, he does stiff arm a guy, and it's pretty great. Because it's kind of like half-hearted, where I don't even think it was intentional. I think he was in the middle of tripping, and he just reached out for something, and his palm just happened to catch the guy's face.
I'll give the goon the benefit of the doubt. Maybe the goon thought that he was a nerd. He's just like, all right, this guy's going to be no problem. He's a nerd, and he wasn't ready for it.
I mean, it's like that Robot Chicken sketch. It's like, we don't know how this guy's day started. Like, maybe he's in the middle of a divorce. And
he's got other shit going on.
He had a lot of paperwork to do this morning. He skipped his coffee. He missed breakfast. He's just not. He's not in a good headspace. Right
I don't think that chicken burrito was cooked all the way. Oh fuck!
Yeah, he was just not ready for it. Everybody has an off day every once in a while.
So go ahead.
I was just gonna say, Keanu takes off running. He tries to like hide Rachel Weisz inside a replica plane that they have in the middle of the exhibit. Big dude. I can't remember what movie this is. Maybe you can help me. It's the big black guy.
Yeah.
Was it like Air Force One or something that he's wearing like a tight like Under Armour suit throughout the whole thing, but he has a submachine gun that is way too small for him. And he plays a goon in that movie, and he makes it almost to the end of the movie because he just has that great presence because he's gigantic and he's got a cool look to him.
He's actually
remember.
He's in The Fugitive, and he's also in U.S. Marshals. He was not in Air Force One, but he was in The Fugitive. I think that might be what you're thinking of.
Okay, maybe then. Anyway, he snatches Rachel Weisz. And meanwhile, Keanu hops on top of the plane. We get a goofy set piece where he's like slipping and sliding on the roof of it. And long story short, he escapes. Now, something that I noticed that I don't know if this translates to every copy of this film, but I hope it does because it was fucking hilarious. At the FBI command center, the guy who told us what DARPA means, he's on the phone. And he's like, "Oh, hey guys, the cops are calling. Keanu's at such and such location." Yeah. But he looks again pretty much directly into the camera, and he says he's at the Smithsonian. His lips say the Smithsonian. He's dubbed, and it says Science Museum.
He's at the Science Museum.
But his lips, he said Smithsonian on the set. But for some reason, maybe the Smithsonian said, "Fuck that. We don't want anything to do with this movie."
Or maybe like the audience that the director was like, "Okay, the audience isn't gonna know what the Smithsonian is. This is a bunch of dads that are gonna be watching this, so it's called a Science Museum. They'll get it."
It's like I don't know, guys. There's a lot of pro wrestling fans at this test screening.
A lot of dumb dads are going to this over the weekend. They do not know.
A lot of NWO shirts in the crowd. Not sure about this one, guys. And then Rachel gets spirited away to C Systems.
Yeah, they got the Vice.
And I believe at this point, we're in the boardroom. And I'm pretty sure the white guy with the monkey butt haircut and the funny accent, he's in there.
Oh, yes, I know exactly who you're talking about now. I apologize. Yeah, that's the same guy.
Was he with the Libyans?
Correct, okay. Yes.
So
correct.
he's been in on it. He's been a bad guy from the start.
Yes.
He's in there, and he's like trying to tell Rachel that's like, yeah, I think we can get it this time. She's like, the fuck? Like, you've been a traitor this whole time? And then Morgan Freeman comes out from the back room, and he's got Dr. Chen.
Yeah, Dr. Chen still
looks
alive.
Like he has not been having a good time.
No, they've been working him over with, bars of soap in the midsection. He doesn't look very happy. Probably hasn't eaten. He looks like Han Solo after he gets tortured by Vader in Empire Strikes Back, where they bring him in. He's just like, I feel funny. Like, I don't feel good when they drop him.
Yeah, I feel terrible.
I feel terrible.
Chewie's like, I hear you, bud. Sorry.
I had to write down CQ493. Keanu was able to get the license plate of the van that they steal Rachel Weisz in.
Photographic memory.
Photographic memory.
So yeah, Keanu, and the scene doesn't really make sense until it concludes. But Keanu is like, hands in his pockets. He's trudging down the street. He's not in a good mood because his lady, who's not really his lady, but I guess he cares about her, she's gone. He comes across a homeless shelter, and there's a big commotion going on there. And there's this homeless guy that is yelling at him, and he's like, that was kind of a dick move. I should probably acknowledge that he exists. And so he hands the homeless guy some money, and he's like, "Can I share your grate?
Can I share your grate?"
Yeah. Because it has a steam vent on it. And I was like, yeah. I mean, Keanu is kind of the coolest guy ever. That is something he would probably do.
Yeah.
But the whole reason for this scene is that he's sitting on the grate, and then some cops pull up. They're not there for him. They're there for the commotion going on in the homeless shelter. And while they're running out of their car, he just like springs into action. He hops onto the computer console in their car, and CQ493 or whatever, the license plate. Basically, he uses he uses their computer to run the plate of the vehicle that Rachel Weisz was taken away on.
One, the cops' database would not have this license plate, I don't think, because if this is whatever corporation that Morgan Freeman's working for, they're untraceable. I don't think they're traceable people, so I don't think he would be able to figure this out. Maybe he would. But he how the fuck does he get to this quarry? He walks to a quarry, as far as we know. Like, he literally walks, he gets out of the cop car, starts running, and then he's in the middle of nowhere at the place.
Yeah. I think you started things off by saying people just appear places sometimes in this movie, and that is certainly the case here.
This might be more ridiculous than the cop showing up at the payphone. Like, this is, like, just one scene of him hitchhiking. Just have him, like, with his thumb out, and then, okay, he hitchhiked there somehow.
Well, yeah, and I mean, this adventure has taken us across multiple states, too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, now we're in Virginia. We were in Chicago. We were in Illinois. We got to Wisconsin. Now we're in Virginia. So,
well, Chicago is like a sneeze away from the Wisconsin border. Like, it's right there.
Okay. But Virginia?
Yeah. No, that's a bit further.
So, yeah, Keanu sneaks into the C-Systems facility via air duct. Very classic action hero move.
Oh, did you pick up on the guitar synth that we've been hearing every once in a while?
Kyle, you probably can't see it, but some of these guitar riffs sound very David Michael Frank.
From I wanted to say oh god damn it, what was I trying? What? And it kept reminding me of something. I can't think of the movie.
So Lethal Weapon had Eric Clapton, so that's in a different league altogether. But David Michael Frank was a composer who was big in the late 80s, early 90s. He composed a few of Andrew Davis's movies. Many of Steven Seagal's early films, like his first 5 movies, basically were composed by this guy. It has a very particular sound, and yeah, it's this like synthy, like sassy guitar riff. It really starts to like loom over the film, like when Keanu is separated from Rachel Weisz.
Someone's about to. I was just saying, it's like somebody's about to pull their dick out in a sexual thriller in the 90s. That's what it felt like.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And I mean, with the Steven Seagal thing going, I was like half expecting Keanu to like go into action mode and put his hair into a ponytail and start snapping necks or something. Because it's the end of the movie. You kind of expect that, but we never really get there. But yeah, I did notice the music. Thank you for bringing that up, because I was actually going to gloss over that. But yeah, Keanu sneaks in there via air duct, and then we cut to the people there running the experiment again. And it doesn't work.
No.
And we get some shots of Rachel Weisz and Dr. Chen that it's close-ups of their face that kind of tell us that they're glad it's not working. And Morgan Freeman, Brian Cox are understandably upset. This is where that line I mentioned comes in, where Morgan Freeman's like trying to intimidate Rachel Weisz, and he's like, "Oh yeah, Keanu will come." I was like, "Are you?" He's a physicist. He he probably went back to his loft to play on his keyboard.
He's not a physicist though. Rachel Weisz is the physicist. He's just a machinist. He just he built the machine more or less.
He fabricates things. But yeah, this was fucking weird. This was a bizarre moment because the experiment fails. We clear out the room. Like, everybody's like, okay, let's reconvene in the morning, try again. I don't know why, because I don't know what else you would do. Like, clearly it's not working. And then they turn off all the lights, and Keanu just walks into the experiment room.
Yeah.
There's no security cameras even.
Nothing.
Nobody cares.
I think Steph mentioned that. He's on camera. Like, they're watching him right now.
Yeah,
no, they're not.
This is like top secret facility that even the FBI gets told to take a hike when they show up. You would think that their security would be up to snuff, but no, he just walks into the main experiment room.
Walks into this top secret facility underground. Walks into a top secret facility underground. That's what happens.
Yeah, and not only that, he starts digging around with the machine.
Yeah,
like,
I thought he was gonna sabotage it. He starts working on the machine, and I'm like, oh, he's gonna fuck it all up, or he's gonna do something that's gonna make it go bad. But we cut to later that evening or the next day, and it's working perfectly.
Yeah, no, he fixes the machine.
Like, what the fuck is his in-game here?
Yeah, I don't know what the rationale here was, but there is a really fun moment here though where Morgan Freeman, we cut to him, and like the facility is like buzzing with activity now because somehow the machine's online and it's working. I'd be a little alarmed if this hydrogen bomb machine suddenly started working and suddenly turned itself on, but he's okay with it. But what makes it funny is the monkey butt guy. He takes credit for it.
Yeah, he does.
He immediately throws his hand up and says, "Yep, I'm the guy who solved the puzzle. I made it work.
God was talking to me in the night, and I got up, and I came in here, and it worked. I fixed it." Yeah, it was a little weird exchange he has with him.
Yeah, and then I think Morgan Freeman instantly asks for like the data, like the actual computations that went into making the machine function. He's like, I need a copy of that right now. And then he just takes off, and he heads down a staircase, heads to the conference room, and he finds Keanu messing around, like sending some emails.
Yeah, sending some emails.
In the mid-90s, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's like, you got to go to college to do that.
How's he even getting this done if he's typing with two fingers? Like, yeah. But that you can kind of see what he's writing on the computer. It's like, me and my terrorist buddies are down here at C Corps or whatever, and he's like, you should come and get us right now. And you think that he hit send, but he hasn't yet. But basically, Morgan Freeman does the exposition dump. He just tells us what the whole point of the movie.
This is the speech from A Few Good Men.
Yeah.
This is Jack Nicholson's speech. You need me on that wall.
Yeah, it's yeah, it's he's like, yeah, I mean, we've got this awesome technology, but like it would just crash the world economy, and we can't be having that. So we're gonna let these things out in spurts, which I'm like, he's got pretty good. He's making a pretty good point here.
He does have a point.
And Keanu's just not having it. He's not even listening. Like, he doesn't even care.
No way, man.
I don't care.
I don't care, man.
It's not right. You can't bury this information.
Free, man.
Land of the what?
Dying in the Arctic, man.
Land of the what? Land of the free, man. So he mentions, he says that like Morgan Freeman's like, you promised that once we figured this out, you would let us all go or some shit like that. And Morgan was like, no, that's not gonna happen or whatever. He's like, okay, and he hits send. Well, what he did was he we learned that he rewired this machine to I guess be connected to the computer, and when he hits send, all like how to build the machine and all the working parts and everything gets faxed to the FBI along with the email, and now the machine is overheating, we'll say.
Yeah, you could have just said Keanu hacked the planet. See, this is a thing that was prevalent in 90s film writing was technology can do anything.
Yes.
If you know how to use computers, you can do anything. Like in the net, you can order a pizza with the internet. And Independence Day, you can fight the aliens with a computer. And in this case, yes, you can rig up a office computer, to send an email and cause a hydrogen bomb to develop a mind of its own. Not explode, just become uncontrollable.
Yeah, it basically, I put it on the closed circuit. Like, it cannot be touched now. Like, can't be messed with.
It's the solenoid. It must be the solenoid acting up. Or we need more firewalls. Just insert buzzword here. But it needs to be said, Brian Cox is in the room for all this.
Oh, no, he leaves the room and runs back to the room.
Operative word being runs.
Runs back. It's worth watching this movie just to watch him run.
It's pretty amazing. Oh my god, it really is. If you've ever seen Steven Seagal run, there's a very small window of opportunity. So there's 7-year cicadas or whatever. It's like that's the equivalent of Steven Seagal running. It's like you need to be in the right place at the right time to see the birth of this magical moment. And yeah, Brian Cox running is not something I've seen very often in film. This is the only time I actually have ever seen it.
He's acting running. Like, he's not even running. He's acting running. That's the best way I can describe it. Like, okay, pretend like you would run down a hall. Like, no. Just run down the hall. And his arms are like kind of swinging funny.
So to describe it with verbiage, they're like flipping and flopping out to the side, like in a circular motion.
He's doing double windmills on both hands.
He's doing double
opposite directions.
But I mean, the English language, as frustrating as it can be, I'm glad it gives me the opportunity to use words like flounce.
Flounce?
This is a flounce.
They're like bounce flipping.
Yes, he flounces down the... Oh, a good description would be, I want you to run down this hall, but the hall is only 10 feet long.
Yes.
So you need to be in a hurry, but only for this amount of, for this stretch.
Yes.
So you get like a big burst of acceleration, but you got to slow down right away. And you got to use those arms, create some air resistance.
It's one of the best 2 seconds on screen I've ever seen.
I promise you, I will try to make a GIF of that for you.
Thank you. I was gonna say we're machines acting up. Somebody threw the cement brick into the dryer. It's starting to shake a little bit, and now we're gonna try to mess with it. And I think we have everybody in the room now. Like, everybody's all front and center.
Yeah, and I think Rachel Weisz mentions that, it's going to explode in 20 minutes. And that feels accurate, because this thing is threatening to explode for what feels like a half an hour.
Yeah. I'm
like, okay, guys, let's get to it.
Yeah.
At this point, I think is where Chen gets shot, because Brian Cox is trying to reason with them. He's like, turn the fucking thing off. And Keanu keeps telling him, I can't. And so, for whatever reason, Brian Cox, you said racism was probably the catalyst?
Racist. There's no reason for him to shoot Chen. You shoot Rachel Weisz. If you want to make a statement, you want to get your point across, you shoot her. Like, fix it. Now. Like, okay,
Keanu didn't even know Chen was alive until 2 seconds ago. Why would he care?
it just felt wrong. And even, like I said, Morgan Freeman's like, that was totally unnecessary. And I think maybe they just didn't tell him that he was going to shoot the Chinese gentleman in the room. And that was just Morgan Freeman reacting like, why did you do that? What? That was unnecessary. Why would he even do that? So this was
the alien chest burster scene, but with a Chinese man getting shot instead of John Hurt's chest blowing up?
Yeah. But
whoa,
it was just uncalled for, and they're trying to fix it. And then Monkey Butt, he's like, I know a way I could try to fix. That's not his voice. I know a way I could try to fix it. And he goes over, and they're like, no, don't. and it makes it worse. So
I don't know that it did. I mean, it still takes about 20 minutes to go. But.
They say it made it worse. He's like, no. He's like, we were kind of fucked before, but now we're totally fucked. And
see, that line needed to be in this movie.
Yeah. And Brian Cox is like, fix it. And Keanu's just like shoulder shrugging, like, it's just not gonna happen, man. Like, it's over.
Yeah. So we yell at each other. Everybody's yelling. Everybody's yelling back and forth for like 5-10 minutes here while this machine is rocking and rolling and threatening to blow up. It's like, I don't know that I'd want to be having long conversations right now. And we start to evacuate. And Brian Cox and Morgan Freeman, they've been snipping and snapping at each other for the past hour. They're like a bickering married couple or something.
Yeah, they're not fans of each other.
And he's like, ooh, I just might strike you.
Yeah.
it's like, I might get to that point, but I probably won't. And Brian Cox basically is saying, like, because Morgan Freeman's trying to bargain to keep Keanu and Rachel alive.
Yeah.
It's like, don't leave them here. Like, they're still useful in some regard. And Brian Cox is like, nah, fuck that. And he tells Morgan Freeman, like, if you want to keep them, you got to stay with them, or you can come with me. Morgan Freeman finally gives in. He's like, okay, I'll go with you, Brian Cox. And Keanu starts getting to work, like MacGyvering his way out of this room, which gets sealed after everyone else leaves. So there's like a shutter that closes and some sort of cap, like a heavy stone cap kind of thing that lowers down on a basement exit that they're trying to get open.
I'm comfortable with that, yeah.
Yeah. And then Brian Cox makes his exit from the film, and this elevator shaft is gorgeous.
Oh yeah.
I don't know where they filmed that, but whatever. It's really cool to look at. And
I feel like this was Dr. Evil's lair in Austin Powers. I think Austin Powers came out in like 97.
Maybe 6.
I think 1999. No, 90. I think it was 97 because the second one came out in 1999.
Okay.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
But yeah, it felt like Dr. Evil's lair a little bit.
A little bit. I mean, it's funny if you took the action music that plays at the end of every Austin Powers movie and put that over the sequence, it would probably fit very well.
Yeah.
But yeah, this scene with Brian Cox and Morgan Freeman, elevator shaft together, it's supposed to be like suspenseful and eerie in some fashion because Brian Cox keeps making sure that Morgan Freeman's walking ahead of him. They're in the elevator together. They've been snipping at each other for the whole movie. So this is kind of things building to a head. We get an exterior shot of the elevator shaft and bang, bang, bang. Like, not just one bang, many gunshots.
Yeah.
And then next shot is Brian Cox, like, slouched against the wall of the elevator and Morgan Freeman stepping out.
Yeah.
And saying, like, I forgot to mention it. Like, your retirement was already planned.
Yeah. Well, they kept showing Brian Cox with a gun and like, why don't you give me that disc back? And why don't you give me that disc back? Maybe we should retire. They're leading us to believe that he's gonna shoot Morgan Freeman, and Morgan Freeman steps out and wearing some nice penny loafers. I appreciated the penny loafer shot. I don't know why. I just I didn't realize I wanted to know what kind of footwear Morgan Freeman was wearing in this movie. I would have thought they would have been a little bit of a harder shoe, but no, he's got some comfortable penny loafers. I think he likes to be comfortable.
His attire in this film is actually worth pointing out. Like he's basically wearing his outfit from Seven throughout the whole movie, but just nicer.
Yeah.
He's got that bucket hat thing throughout the whole movie and glasses.
I love him hysterically laughing in Seven at the how close their apartment is to the train. And it's like shaking the whole apartment, and he fucking loses it. It feels genuine, like that's how good of a laugh it is. But so yeah, he makes his exit, and now Keanu and them are trying to get out, but Morgan Freeman's a swell guy. He undoes the containment, so they're able to get out of there.
Kinda. Keanu moves the blast plate
top
thing,
yeah,
with a hydrogen tank.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry,
fire axe.
Yeah.
That's what I meant by MacGyver's it open.
Yeah.
And then we keep cutting back and forth between stuff, and Keanu and Rachel are running through the facility, and oh my god, the Libyans show up again. Big white guy, big black guy, and for whatever reason, instead of running away from the probable hydrogen bomb explosion, the Libyans decide to give chase and start shooting at Keanu, because priorities. I mean, if you're a goon, I guess this is what you live for.
It's what you pay for, man.
Yeah, I guess. But,
you can't go back to Two-Face and let him know, like, yeah, the Batman was still down there running around. What? Like, that, you're going to get shot.
But yeah, Keanu defeats them Home Alone style.
Yes, exactly. I made the same note. I'm like, yeah, that's that. Marv and Harry would have definitely survived that, but yeah.
Yeah, he collapses some scaffolding, and pretty sure the white guy buys it right then and there, but the big black guy, that I can't remember what that movie was where he has the too small gun, he comes out from the wreckage, and Rachel Weisz is like, I think you have to punch him, Keanu. And he's like, why? And she's like, because this movie's kind of boring and we need something to happen at the end. So he grabs a chain and he starts swinging at this guy, and they have a wrestling match that ends very uneventfully, because instead of continuing the fight, this is the guy that turns around and has the airplane propeller chop him up. You know, that's what the big ugly goon is for. No, instead they wrestle a bit. Keanu knees him in the dick, and then he hops onto this metal basket that he put Rachel in, and it starts like ascending out of the underground lair. The thing that has been exploding for 20 minutes finally explodes.
Shoots them out of the tip because they haven't quite made it to the top yet.
And it's not as good of an explosion as the first one.
No, it's not.
For a movie that is literally about 2 explosions, you need to have the second explosion be the good one. And yeah, a big black guy gets blown away. It's a okay special effects shot. But Kyle, you really like the movie Twister.
Yes, I love it.
Did this not make you think of the end of Twister a little bit?
No, them shooting up out of there.
See, this ending, and I need your help because it reminds me of so many other things, but I can't quite put my finger on exactly what movie. The first one that comes to mind is Speed, where we need to speed it up, and the train comes out of the ground. It's that situation where our breeding pair are huddled together. It's uncertain whether they'll survive, and then big explosion throws them out.
It is Twister. So at the end of Twister, which I almost watched, I was like, if I had time today, I was going to watch Twister again. I don't know what it is about that movie. It's just a summertime flick for me. But yes, at the end, Helen Hunt and Bill Paxton are attached to a pipe with some rope, and they are actually kind of being sucked by the twister, and they survive it. That's more believable than the 2 people in this movie who would be charred, dismembered corpses because they were shot out of a pipe by a hydrogen bomb in a steel cage. The steel cage went out of the pipe and back down into the pipe.
There'd be some crushed bones at the very least.
At least, they didn't even get on. They weren't even on fire.
Unlike Twister, where their skin would be torn off and they'd very likely just be torn in half.
They would have broken. If the rope or whatever straps they had in that movie,
I think it was a belt.
It was like a belt. Yeah, it literally was like a belt. It was like a leather belt. Like if that had held on, it would have it would have broken bones. Basically,
it would have torn them in half.
Yeah,
right down the middle.
It would have crushed their rib cage or something. Like, and yeah, they would have been.
The speed of the wind would take their faces off. Faces off. But there's another movie that I can't quite put my finger on that I feel like it was like a water situation where it was like 2 people and they get like blown up through a geyser or something. I can't remember what it was, but anyway, this is a familiar scenario for 90s action movies. Anyway, they survive. And then the
FBI are just like the FBI, they haven't even figured it out yet, but they're just like Special Agent Johnson is like, I don't really think he could do something like this. And because of that, they're like, I don't think he did. So they actually greet them. The FBI agents are like, what happened? And they're like, hydrogen bomb. And he's like, well, you want to tell us about it? And like, yeah, we'll tell you everything. Yeah. He's like, okay.
Oh, it was the email.
It was the email. Yes.
I forgot. Yes. Yeah, he sent the email to the FBI saying, come get us.
Yeah.
And he also, magic of computers, somehow sent like every personal record, every document that exists about C Systems and this machine
to 1,000. I think he says 1,000.
Basically the entire science community and the FBI.
Yeah.
With a single keystroke from a personal computer.
I can't
not a supercomputer, just a personal computer.
I can't remember anybody's email address. Sometimes I forget mine. I'm like, what is mine again? Oh yeah, okay. So he put in 1,000. I think he said like 1,000 physicists or 1,000 scientists or something like that.
Yeah.
Impossible in this time frame. If he did it from memory, absolutely impossible. I'd rather just have a movie about like how great his memory is if he was able to do that. Or they were already.
You did remember that license plate though, Kyle.
How many digits? CQ49. It's 5 digits. That's not hard. I could give you 5 digits now. You could remember them. Like if you just like.
What would have been perfect is he does his dramatic like behind the back keystroke, like, hitting the enter key.
Yeah.
And then you just hear that old fashioned error noise, the dun. Just like computers like nope.
That would be kind of funny. That's too many email addresses.
It's like that's too many recipients, Keanu.
Can't do it.
You can only send up to 5 at a time. Like,
can't be done.
That's just asking way too much.
So yeah, they
just think of the bandwidth.
Then Special Agent Johnson's like, all right, well, we're gonna take you guys to headquarters. Like you guys split up. You take her, you take them. He's like, no. And there's like a pause, and he's like, we go together. And I'm like, I don't think you understand what a federal investigation is, but we need to keep you two separated. That way you can't corroborate your story in the same vehicle, and then it all match up when we get there.
Yeah, and again, you need to have like an extra little acting moment from Rachel, like wriggling under his shoulder just a little bit, like, no. Like, it's like, that guy whose house I was living at, we were kind of a thing.
We did some stuff. We did. Yeah, I don't want to talk bases, but we did stuff.
Yeah, I was living in his house. Like, it's like, I mean, you're a nice guy, and thanks for warming me up when I was freezing. But like,
appreciate you
and
shit,
or anything.
But...
Yeah, pat on the head or something.
And I think
Morgan Freeman escapes.
Oh yeah, I don't know why, but I loved this escape. It really made me feel good.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why. He steps outside and he's in a completely different location and like a barn. I'm like, that's awesome. He had a back door the whole time. I love it.
Yeah, he had a Batman rig set up where he had a Lincoln parked at a barn that was somehow attached via tunnel to C Systems.
I would love to have this on my own. Like, I would love to have like 50 acres of land and then build like an underground tunnel to like from my panic room down in the basement that I can just like run down this tunnel and be out at a different part. That'd be awesome. Yeah,
and then this was before sequel baiting was really a common practice. I don't think that was the intent at all, but like his ending lines are basically him in the back of this Lincoln getting driven by this man with sunglasses who has been hovering over his shoulder throughout the entire movie. Man with sunglasses who never takes off said sunglasses in the dead of winter and indoors. And he's talking to his secretary or whatever, and he says, take a memo. And he's like, C Systems, not a viable system anymore.
Another Tuesday for him. It's just
and he's very casual about it, very cavalier. And then like the last shot is really weird because of the nature of his character. It's very, I don't know what I'm supposed to feel here, but it's his Lincoln going over a hill and
the
an American flag.
Yeah.
I'm like, so is he like, I mean, he is commended for his patriotism at some point. So it's like, is he supposed to be the hero?
He's supposed to be Nick Cage in Lord of War. It's like you're following this character and he's doing shady shit the whole time, and at the end you're just like, well, he's working for higher ups. He's working for the government, Except in Lord of War, it's supposed to be like bad, but here it's like no, he's doing the right thing here.
It's a weird message.
It's a very strange message to send. I had the exact same feeling. I'm like, that American flag is not there on accident. That's there for a reason.
Well, I mean, he does speechify throughout the movie about like thinking about the bigger picture and how it's like that ideology conversation he has with Keanu, where he's basically saying like, "Hey, yeah, it's great that you invented clean energy, but you know," so it's just an interesting perspective because I don't know, the 90s felt like
this is before 9/11.
It felt like a slightly more optimistic time period, and this is kind of a not. It's like a cynical, not nihilistic, but like a little bit cynical, I guess.
Well, it's like the odd line. Like I thought it was a funny line. The national security doesn't include murdering people, domestically speaking. It's an odd line to throw in there, like funny, but it's like, It's, the last movie that this fella Andrew Davis directed was The Guardian with Ashton Kutcher and.
Oh, jeez.
The
Coast Guard movie?
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't entirely hate that movie, and I don't know why. I want to hate it because it's got Kevin Costner and Ashton Kutcher. Like, you want to just not like it. I remember being okay with it, and then sometimes I think about it, I'm like, man, that movie sucked. But I feel like I'm just gonna have to go back and watch it and reassess because I think
I haven't seen it, but I'm sorry, but just surface details of it, I was like, I am fully prepared to hate this.
Well, it's Kevin Costner being kind of a dick, but it's a focused dick, and it's a dick with a purpose. So I feel like it's okay. I'm not a big Kevin Costner fan.
Neither am I.
I still think Mr. Brooks is okay. I'm probably wrong. Like I said, I'm probably wrong.
We'll get to it.
But yeah, he that was the last movie he directed. He hasn't directed anything else since then. So I wonder if he took like I wonder like the themes of this movie. I wonder if he took kind of a xenophobic turn when the towers fell, you know? And they're like, yeah, maybe don't give him any more things to direct.
Yeah, I actually don't know what happened in his career, but he had he led very strong. Like first 10 years or whatever of his career was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was Chain Reaction.
Yeah.
Second in our month of catching up on Keanu.
Correct.
Next week,
Man from Tai Chi.
Man of Tai Chi, yeah.
I think that's what we're doing.
So yeah, I'll be having you watch Man of Tai Chi, which is notable for being the first and only film Keanu Reeves has ever directed. He also has a major role in it, so this time I'm not cheating, I guess. Because Freak definitely was not a Keanu Reeves movie.
It was not.
Anyway, thank you for joining us as we caught up on cinema.
Correct.
Until next time.